Video, we're going to look at how we can create, link and access our Google Documents through Google Classroom. Now, before we get started, we're going to go into Google Classroom in a minute. We'll give you a couple of examples of how you can do this. But let's just go over the basics. When you go into Google Classroom, when you log in, what you're actually logging into is your Google Drive. So that's an area of cloud, an area of memory where you can store documents. Now, classically, we use Google Docs. So that's Google Docs, which is their version of Word, Google Slides, which is their version of PowerPoint, and this is the one you're probably going to use the most. Google Sheets, which is like Excel. But you can also just upload any files. You can upload JPEGs, you can upload Word and PowerPoint documents. It would seem a little bit ridiculous to do that, given that you then have to download the document, make your changes, save it locally and re-upload it. So the whole advantage of working in the cloud and working with Google Docs is you don't have to download things. You're just constantly updating something that exists in the cloud. Now, all Google Classroom really does, it's an interface between your Google Drive, yourself and your teachers. It just means we can easily sort of file things away. Imagine you're working in paper documents and magically all your paper documents go in a file and your teachers know exactly where to get those paper documents from. It just does that electronically, nothing more really. It's a really great way of you communicating with us and us communicating with you. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm already logged on. You should know how to do that by now. This is a current Google Drive. If you remember, we set up this first last account just as an example. So this is what's in this account at the moment. Really not a lot at the moment. If I now go into my Google Classroom interface, let's show you a couple of different things. So I've joined two classes. So I'm going to go into Mr. Santos's class here. I'm just going to move myself. Let's move myself up here. Okay, so I'm going to go into the classwork section here. Now, if you see this little icon here, this means there's an attachment there. There's something there that I can look at, but I can't upload anything here, okay? This is an assignment with the clipboard here. That means it's going to give me the option to upload things. So I'm going to go into the View Assignment option. You can see I've got some instructions here about what to do. There's a couple of bits. There's a video I can watch over here. There's a tracker over here. But I want to add some work, okay? So I'm going to click here on Add or Create. Now this gives me the option to either link an existing file I've got, an existing Google document. I can open my Google Drive and just look for the work if I've already created it. I could link a JPEG, so specifically for art, if I've drawn a piece of work, I could take a picture of it with my phone, transfer it to my Google Drive and then just link that. But I can also create one of these four documents here. So I'm going to create a Google slide. Okay, now you can see over here it's thinking about it. It's just creating that in the cloud. Okay, that's done. So now if I click on this, it'll open a new tab up here. Now the great thing about creating documents this way, this is instantly linked to that classroom. So in this case, that was Mr. Santos's art class. He can now view what I've done here. But the other great thing is it's instantly given it a title. Now you see it says first last. That's because that's the name I've created for this sort of sample here. But it would normally, if I had logged on as myself, it'd be Tom Watson Summer Break Development Work. So it's really great at just labeling and titling everything. And that's super important for your teachers so they know who's doing the work. Okay, so as I work, I can just work through this, adding things, and this is instantly linked. Okay, so I'm going to shut this down. Because one of the things, it's easy to create the work, but we need to know how to get back to the work. Now, wait, let's just go back to this class. So, okay, so I've done the work, I've come back, I'm going to click on classwork, and I'm like, how do I get to my work? One way you can do it is you can view the assignment, and I don't want to add or create again, but I can open it here. And there we go, it's opened up with the two slides I added. Now, I'm now going to go back into the Google Classroom and I want Mr. Santos to see the work I've done. Now he can see it at the moment, but it's like working in class. Does he know that you've done enough that warrants marking it? Or you might have a deadline coming up. We'll get onto deadlines in a minute. So if I click this hand in, Now this is the same as you physically handing a piece of paper. So that means that's now handed in. You can't now work on this, you won't be able to edit it unless you unsubmit it. And it's the same as saying, look, I've done the work, Mr. Santos, can you mark it? And he'll give you feedback. But he won't know to mark it, or you won't have hit your deadline if you don't hit that hand in button. This private comments section here is where you could send Mr. Santos a message. You can do that at any point. And I'm saying Mr. Santos because I'm in the Mr. Santos's class, obviously whoever's teacher you're linked to. Okay, so let's delete that again. Oh. Now I'm going to go back in, I'm going to show you another way that we can create work. So I'm going to go into the other class here, the Year 10 Construction class. Now if I click up here, my to-do list, oh, I've got no, okay, so I've got no missing work at the moment. Here we go. So now I've joined the class, you can see I've got all this missing work. So your to-do list is a great way of just keeping on top of what you need to do. So I'm going to go back into the Year 10 Construction class, I'm going to go into the classwork. And I'm going to look at the Science and Maths presentation. I think I'm going to look at the electrical. You can already see it says missing here because there's a due date attached to that one. So that's missing. Now, if you notice here, I haven't created anything yet, but this one, rather cunningly, comes with one pre-assigned. So what your teachers can do, if they want to, is they can create this sort of presentation where what we've done here is we've given instructions on how we want this particular piece of coursework to be created, and there's blank sides to be created. But again, as I opened it, it created a copy for me. So it's a great way of teachers sharing work with information inside it. Okay, now like I said, all Google Classroom does is link with my Drive. So if I go into my Google Drive, I'm in here, and I should now be able to just access all my work from here. So if I just go into my classroom, we can see it's created a folder here, Year 10 GCSE Art, and that piece of work that I created earlier is now here. So I don't have to go through Google Classroom now to open the piece of work. You can just go through your Google Drive. And Google Drive is just an online folder storage system. You get quite a bit of information sharing with it. Now you notice it says view only here. It won't normally say that, but if you remember, I've submitted the work. So that means I can only view it. I can't edit it at the moment. What I can do is request edit access, and that will send Mr. Santos a reminder to just say, hey, I forgot to do something. I just want to add a bit more. Could you just return it to me? And then I'll resubmit it. Okay, so that's in a nutshell. The other great thing I want to show you is this great thing here. Now, we haven't done a lot of work on this yet, but if you click on this, last edit was 2 minutes ago, it brings up this here. Now, once you get further, this is like autosave. Now, I've got Google Documents going back about 10 years now. They introduced this a while ago, and I can actually see about the last 3 years worth of changes I've done here. So one of the great things with Google is that it's virtually impossible to delete your work. Don't ever try giving us the excuse that you did the work but it's deleted, because we can track everything online, and so can you. You can go back to any sort of version of the event. So if you've no, I deleted a load of slides, and of course it auto saved, and then I shut the program down so I can't get those slides back, just click on where it says last changes or all changes saved, or last edit was 2 minutes ago, and you can access anything from your work. So just to quickly go back over what we've covered, is this concept of how we link work to it, how we can access it. So we can access work, remember, through Google Classroom, or you can just go straight through your Google Drive. If you're in your Google Drive and you just create a new document, when you're in your Google Classroom, remember it said add or create. So I could just go, I could open my Google Drive. If I had the link, I could create it. Or if there's a file on my hard drive that I want to upload, like a Word document or a JPEG, I can just link that there as well. Okay, thank you very much, guys. See you soon.